So when I was, I think I was about a freshman or a sophomore in high school, my little sister signed up to play Say Soccer, which is just kind of like League for Everyone soccer. And so she signed up to play. So my dad decided they needed coaches. So my dad decided that he was going to help coach the team and that I was going to assist him. And like it was funny because like all the other coaches in the area, like they were like really official, like they all wore like the polo and had the whistle because apparently that's the official coach gear that you have to go with. And like we just like showed up in t-shirts. My dad had watched soccer. I had played soccer. Apparently we felt like this qualified us to be coaches. So way. And so we go up, and so we've got this team. We've got all these girls, and we're trying to figure out like really the first time you coach, your goal is don't lose every game. Like it's kind of where we're at, like let's just not lose every game. Let's stick with that. And so we're really excited about it. And so we start like doing that thing that you're not supposed to do. That's just like so prejudiced. We started sizing up the talent of these like 6 and 7 year old girls before we had ever seen them do anything. We're like, oh, she looks good. Oh yeah, she's strong. And so we were like kind of separate them out because we were going to have this first practice and we were going to have a scrimmage and have them go against each other. And I remember there's this one little girl on the team. Her name was Amy. She was about 6 inches shorter than everyone else on the team. And she had like really thick rimmed glasses. And this is an important detail. She had thick rimmed glasses before it was cool to dress like a nerd. You know what I'm saying? Like now it's like, well, that's what we do. We all dress like nerds because that's what we're supposed to look like. But like she had it before that was like the socially acceptable thing to do. And so we like split them all up. We kind of had like, oh, we think these girls are going to be good. And so we started the scrimmage, and we were correct about Amy in terms of her talent and her level of ability. But the one thing that we got wrong was her fearlessness. And so like we had all these other girls, and like they were fast, and some of them kind of knew some skills. Like at 6 or 7, none of them really have any skills. But like this one girl, like it was incredible because she wasn't that good, but she had like, there'd be like, when they're 6 and 7, it's not really like soccer, like it's like pack, and they just run in like a beehive, and that's kind of how it functions. And so basically, whoever has the most courage always wins. And so this one girl, she was so small, and like the ball would be like in the pack, and all the kids would just like be kicking it at each other, and they'd do this for half an hour. It's like, move, do something. And it just go back and forth. And Amy would just like, she'd just like run into the pile and just like the ball would bounce off 5 other people and then keep bouncing off her and she'd just keep running with it. And it was incredible. We were undefeated that year because of Amy. And I'm dead serious. Like we had some other girls that were good, but like she just had no fear whatsoever. Like there'd be bigger kids who'd have the ball and she'd just like run right up into them. She'd run into them. She'd fall over most of the time, but the other time she'd actually get the ball and she'd take it. And like she had no problem with the ball just like continually bouncing off of her, and she'd keep it in front of her. And it was like the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I don't think she actually ended up becoming good because again, like she had no talent. So like at the age when talent actually mattered, she ended up not being good. But like for that age group, she was absolutely incredible. And it was so interesting to kind of look back on it because we went like, man, if we went back to like that first practice, we went, okay, these people are going to be good. These people are going to be okay. But like she was one of like the bottom of the barrel. People were going, no, there's no way she's good. And then our best player turned out to be the most unlikely person. And that's kind of like what we're talking about in this series. In this series, Loners and Longshots, we are looking at the people who Jesus picked to be on his team. The people who Jesus gathered together, that he could have picked absolutely anyone he wanted, but he, in a sense, picked the most unusual group to be on his team. It's the last people who we would possibly expect. And as we looked last week in this series, we saw that although all the kind of traits that we would say, this is who Jesus is looking for, this is who he wants, that he was looking for one specific trait. He was looking for the people who were humble, people who had humility or who were able to develop humility. And we looked at some of the things that does and how incredible it is. That when Jesus picked his team, it wasn't the best of the best, it wasn't the smartest, it wasn't the most popular, it wasn't the most charismatic, but he was looking for people who could be humble or he could develop humility in them. And it's kind of interesting. I kind of want to ask this question that when we talk about the team who Jesus picks, we almost kind of think along the way, so why did he pick a team? Why does Jesus actually need a team? Because we get this idea of faith that faith is really about the things that we don't do. And so if you want to follow Christ, then you need to kind of insulate and isolate yourself and make sure you don't do the things that are bad and don't break any of the commandments and don't watch any bad movies and don't do these things. And we get this idea that following Christ or being a Christian is about the things that we've been called from, the things we have to leave behind, whether it's sin or bad habits or bad relationships or all those things. And what's happened is over the years, we've put so much emphasis on the things that we've been called from that when we actually get to the idea that we see Jesus collected a group of people who he refers to as a kingdom, it goes, well, why? Like, if our goal is just not to do the bad stuff, then why did he collect a group of people? What we see is that Jesus, far more importantly than what he called people from, is what he called people to. That he actually had something that he wanted his people to accomplish. And the same thing that was true 2,000 years ago when he first assembled his group is true today. And to me, this is one of the most significant parts of my faith because I went years of following Christ and no one ever told me what I was supposed to do. They told me all the things that I was supposed to not do. They told me all the things that I was supposed to stay away from. I just got to tell you, that's a really boring faith. Like, that's a really disheartening way to live your life, that it's just about avoiding the bad stuff. But what we see is that at the very, very heart of our faith is a mission that we've been called on, that he had a purpose that he wanted his people to accomplish. And that's what I want to look at today. Now, I'll say a couple things to just make sure we're on the same page. First off, if you're here and it is your first time here, I want to tell you, you picked a fantastic Sunday to be here because I'm going to tell you everything that we're about as a church. The host said at the beginning that our mission is to lead people to be passionate followers of Christ. We say that every week. I want to show you this morning exactly what that looks like for us in detail. So you know, hey, all the things that you see in terms of back in Kid XP, things that happen throughout the week. We talked about groups. We talked about Sunday morning here. I want to show you why we do all that. So you picked a fantastic Sunday to be here. Second off, just so we're on the same page, I want you to know this. This is not in any way, shape, or form a volunteer push, okay? That's not to say, like, our volunteers, we have so many people who volunteer at Crosspoint, and you guys are absolutely incredible. And we've said this before, it almost feels stupid to say it, that we could not do what we do without you, because that is like blatantly obvious that there is no way we could do what we do without the massive amount of people of committed and energetic volunteers who are excited about what we're doing. Okay, so we value you so much. But I just want you to know, my goal this Sunday is not to get you signed up to serve anything, okay? So as we're going through there, if you feel like, oh, is this? I feel like that'd be a little manipulative because there's going to be some parts this morning that are a little more emotional. And so if you want to volunteer, hey, we will always take you. We would be happy to have you. But that's not what we're doing. That's not what this Sunday's about. So if you've got your Bible with you, I want you to open up to Matthew chapter 18. Matthew chapter 18. And we're just going to look at 4 verses this morning, verses 10 through 14. Now, to catch you up real quickly, if you weren't here last week, what has happened is Jesus is together with his closest followers, and they asked him, who's the greatest? Who's the greatest in the kingdom? They're asking him, Jesus, who do you pick to be on your team? And Jesus does something absolutely incredible, is he takes a little child who in their day and age was very different from children in our culture. Children in their culture had no rights whatsoever. They could be sold into slavery. They could be killed without any legal recourse or action. And so he pulls this child into the middle of the circle, and he says, those who take the lowly position, he's referring to a child's humility, the way they viewed themselves, those who take the lowly position of a child are greatest in my kingdom. And now he continues on that line of thought, okay? So he's already said that those who are on my team, you need to have humility. And now he's about to tell us what they're supposed to do with it. So this is Matthew chapter 18, verses 10 through 14. It says this. He says, see that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven. What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go to look for the one that wandered off? Which I hear that, and I think, no, like, right? I think, well, if I've got 99 sheep and sheep wander, and I'm supposed to keep them together, and then one of them's gone, am I going to leave all the other sheep behind to go after the one? I think I don't know if I would. I'm not sure. And this is interesting. I was in a church board meeting, not here, years ago, and I was on staff at the church. I wasn't kind of the guy in charge, so I could like kind of deflect all the criticism off of him, which was a wonderful thing to be at that day and age. But there was this complaint that some people in the church had that they thought the pastor was spending too much time focused on people who weren't in the church. They're like, we just feel like you're too concerned and too focused on people who aren't part of our congregation. And then one of the ladies said this. She said, and she'd been in church for her entire life. She was probably in her 70s. She'd be in church for years. And she said this. She goes, we just feel like you're leaving the 99 to go after the one. And I was like, I don't think you realize who said that. Like, I know what you're quoting, but you're actually saying Jesus said that he would leave the 99 to go after the one. Like, that's exactly what he would do. And this kind of bugged me for a while. I was like, would I leave the 99 to go after the one? And then I realized in a moment, and I've shared this story many times before, so I won't go into detail, that when I was in high school, I had kind of grown up in church. And when I was in high school, on one specific Sunday, I invited my best friend to come to church, and it was awful. It was absolutely terrible. And it was like, not like nothing happened. It was just a regular Sunday. But I realized that this place was not a place for my friend. That he felt uncomfortable. He felt unwelcome. He felt like everything was over his head, that he couldn't understand anything that we were doing along the way. And I knew in that moment what I needed to do, that I wanted to start a church where I could bring my friends. I wanted to start a place where people maybe didn't have God figured out. Maybe they didn't know what everything was. Maybe they didn't even have any idea what they believed, but they were curious. They were interested. They had some hope that maybe this is what I've been looking for. And I realized, you know what? You never think that you should leave the 99 to go after the one until it becomes personal. Until you know the one. And the one isn't a number, but the one is a face, a name, someone with a story, someone that you know. And that's what Jesus is alluding to here in this moment. He says, the shepherd, he knows his sheep. I know that sounds kind of weird for us today, but he's going, he knows his sheep. And so if one of them wanders off, he cares. And he would leave everyone who's there to go after the one that is lost. And then he says this. He says, and if he finds it, truly I tell you, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. And then he relates it back to God. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. And this is what he says. It's really, really simple. He says, you want to be on my team? I'll tell you how. This is what it looks like. You need to be humble. Which means at the essence that you are not focused on yourself. That your thoughts, your ideas, your desires, your preferences are not focused on yourself. He says, this is what it looks like to be great. I know everything else in society back then and today tells us that to be great is to be rich, wealthy, popular, have lots of influence, and by any of the world's criteria to be successful. But he says, hey, here's the deal. This is what it looks like to be great. That you live your life not about yourself. And that once you begin to get that, once you begin to grasp, you haven't fully developed it because you never will, but once you begin to grasp that, this is what your life becomes about. You go after the lost. You go after those who don't have it all figured out yet, who aren't exactly sure what all this means. He says, because my heavenly Father cares about them. They may not be personal to you, but they're personal to him. And so he puts all this into one thing, like everything that the Bible is about, everything that we're called to, he says comes down to this thing. This is what you're about, to go after the lost. And then he clarifies it. He brings the child in the middle. The child's already standing up there with the group. And he brings it back at the end. He says, one of these little ones should perish. And so he's already told us this is what we're supposed to be about. But then he relates it back to a child. And this is why I think he does that. Not because children are lost. I mean, they are a lot. I think it's interesting, the correlation between sheep and children, because they both wander, like, all the time. I go into a store with my little kids, and it's like I just want to go to the front of the store and just have someone stand guard because I will lose them. Like, it happens. Every store I go into, I will lose them. They love those circular racks with all the clothes. They think it's hilarious to just stand in the middle of them and then giggle. And so, like, I'm, like, walking through different racks and peeling them to the side, and there's, like, other kids in the racks. I'm like, oh, sorry. I'll tell your mom. But I think it's interesting because sheep and children, they both wander. That's what they do. But Jesus points all this back that he says, hey, the kid, this is the one who is losable, the most losable. Yes, there's people who are lost. Yes, we should be focused on this. But I don't want you to lose sight of those who are the most losable in our society. I'm going to show you a couple things that show how easy that can be. These are some statistics that show you the effects and rates of people who grow up in fatherless homes, okay? So this is children who grow up in fatherless homes. 63% of youth suicides come from kids who grow up in fatherless homes. 90% of kids who run away and become homeless are because they grew up in fatherless homes. 71% of dropouts from high school grew up in fatherless homes. And 85% of teens and students and kids who are in prison grew up in fatherless homes. These people are losable. There's a lot at stake. Now, I cite those not to show you the bad things that are happening, but to show you the exceptions to the rule, because this is what happened, is those statistics have been around for a while. There was a study that was done recently to figure out, okay, so if 63% of youth suicides grew up in fatherless homes, like, what about the others who didn't? Like, for those who ran away, what about those who didn't run away? Who grew up in fatherless homes. Well, what's the difference between those? Like, we've seen this, that this relationship makes a huge difference. What about those who didn't have that? Why did they succeed where others didn't? And this is what they found. Is they found that in almost every single one of those cases, the kids or student could point to a or a number of significant adults in their lives who cared and who made a difference. That in the gap where the relationship of father was extremely important, that other adults had stepped in and decided that we're going to do something about it, that we care, that we want to play our parts. I want you to remember that, okay? Because that role of significant adults is going to be important later. Because as a church, and I don't mean church us here, I mean church globally, we have our own set of problems. And it looks like this. 70% of people who grew up in a church drop out between the years of 17 and 19. 70% of people who grew up in church drop out between the years of 17 and 19. A couple of weeks ago, I was having a conversation with we have a group of interns. They're seniors at the high school who help out here throughout the week. We have a fantastic group this year. And a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about faith and just kind of developing their faith, and the different things had played a significant role in their faith. And I'll never forget, as we were talking about this, and we were talking about faith in college and later stages of life and what that would look like for them, one of our interns said this. She said, you know what, it's interesting because we're already past the stage in life where someone will bring us to church. I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And she goes, well, like, we can all drive now. And so it's our own decision. Like, we're choosing for ourselves whether or not we want to be involved in it. And so, like, 2 years ago was the last point in my life that someone had me or made me go to church. Completely after that, it's my decision. I thought, oh my goodness. Like, that was so huge for me to think, like, oh my goodness, like, to form a foundation of what matters most, we've got like 16 years. And that's it. And for lots of us, like, we came in later, our parents, our families, or we came in on our own, and so we've just got a few years. But I thought, my goodness, if 70% of people drop out, We've got like 16 years. And then it's just their own choice from there on out. Now, if I could clarify on it, just so that doesn't sound too doomsday-ish, because I want to be clear on this, statistics have also shown that 2/3 of those who drop out return at a later stage in life. And I know some of you, you could look back to your own stories and you go, yeah, that's kind of me. I dropped out at college or high school, and then I came back when I started a family or had kids or something significant happened in my life or someone invited me back, so I did come back. But here's the deal. Still, a third are gone for good. But of those 2/3 who come back, we lose them at a very significant spot in their life, where they're making massive decisions about their future and their direction, where they're forging habits that will carry them through the rest of their adulthood, and as they have kids, and as their kids have kids. And so we lose them at one of the clearly most significant spots in their life, and we lose the influence, and we lose a chance to speak into their lives of the important things that are happening. And so Jesus says this: if a shepherd had 99 sheep, I like the sheep, aren't they cute? That made me happy doing that. And he loses one, he's going to go after it. He's going to leave the rest behind, because what is lost is extremely important to him. And we're looking at it like this. If we've got 10 kids and students that we care about, who we know their stories, who we know the influence and impact they can have, and 7 of them are gone, the question is, what will we do about it? What will we do? See, here's the thing, is that most churches at this point in time, they just kind of increase intensity. And it's like, okay, we look at this, so this is what we need to do. We need to do more of what we're doing. Okay, so we've got services, and we've got vacation Bible school, and we've got like revival. Don't you love how churches hold revivals, and it's always for the people who are there? Like, isn't that great? We got to hold that, and we got to do this. And because we're losing these kids, we just need to do them more and better. And that doesn't make sense. I mean, Einstein famously said it like this: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is insanity. And so we said a long time ago, we said we want to be a different kind of church. Not just in what we value, but in how we operate. Not just in the things that we care about and the mission that we're called to, and believing that we are supposed to go after those who don't know God and give them a chance to see him for who he really is and enter into a relationship with him. Like, we should be that, but we should also be different in terms of our strategy and how we seek to accomplish it. And so this is what we see. In an average year with your kids and students, we have 40 hours. 40 hours. Sundays. 40 Sundays. Now, it would be great if I could say we have 51. We don't have 52 because we take the last Sunday in December off. That's kind of your helpful reminder not to show up, so you can mark that on your calendar now, okay? Last Sunday in December, we're off. Please don't show up. But like, the schedules are busy. We travel. We have sports games. We have things like that. For most of our kids and students, we have 40 Sundays. And we feel like it would be incredibly arrogant for us to say that those are the only things that are going to develop. We also know that at home with their parents or guardians or whoever's watching over them and caring about them, that in the home, they have 3,000 hours. And so we would look at that, and we would go, why would we think that the best way to develop faith is with our 40 hours, when at home, they have 3,000? Why would we think that the smartest thing we could possibly do is to say faith ends when you walk out the doors, when in reality, there's such a better way to make an impact? And so we have 3 significant things that we attempt to do as a church to develop, grow, and sustain faith. And I want to take you through them real quickly. The first one is this: significant adults. We seek at every stage of life, whether you're a kid, a student, or an adult, to put other significant adults in your life who can be there, who can speak into your life, who can share, even though they wouldn't call it this, who can share wisdom and guidance, who can be a listening ear, when other people wouldn't be as well. And a lot of times for like our kids and students, people think like what we need is we want to give our kids a buddy. Like that's what you just buddy up and you'll just be everyone's friend. If I be clear, most of our kids and students, they don't need another friend. They may say they have no friends. That's kind of a stage of life thing. They don't need another friend. They need someone important. In student ministry, I look at it like this. When I was a teenager, and I was a good kid, but when I was a teenager, I didn't tell my parents everything. Did you? You're going, heck no. There's no way I did. But I didn't. I didn't tell my parents everything. And sometimes as parents, I think we kind of delude ourselves on this, that we'll say things, it'll just kind of be along the line like, hey, you can tell me anything. I just want you to know, you can come to me with absolutely anything at all. I want to tell you, parents, that is fantastic, and I want you to say that. For 98% of kids and students, that's not going to happen. Because I didn't tell my parents everything. But here's the deal. I told someone. And you know what I did is like when I had like key moments in my life or key decisions or things that I was struggling with that I wanted to talk about, I can tell you what I didn't do, which we think would be the smart thing to do. I didn't go out and I didn't go, you know what, I need to seek out the wisest, smartest, most experienced, most godly person I can to share this stuff with. Like, I'm at this spot, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what I should do for my science fair project, and I just need a prayer warrior who will get on their knees and intercede to God for me. No, I didn't do that, and neither did you. You know who I went to? Whoever was around. This is how we determine advice. We still do it as adults. We go to whoever's closest, and we begin talking to them. And so this is what we attempt to do, is we attempt to stick significant adults and kids and students in adults' lives who can be there, who can be a listening ear. That whenever there are moments of complex questions or difficult decisions, they can be there to talk to them, to share, to help guide them down on the path that they need to go. I've said it before like this. I cannot tell you one single thing that any one of my Sunday school teachers taught me. I grew up in a church that had Sunday school. I cannot tell you one single thing. I know they taught me something, okay? I know that's there. I can't tell you one lesson. I can tell you every single one of their names. I could track it through from the time I was in kindergarten to when I was a senior in high school. I could tell you every single one of their names because the relationships spoke louder than anything else. And so we seek to stick significant adults in those who are most losables lives. The second thing we attempt to do is through our communication. We don't just want to have significant adults in people's lives. We want to be on the same page, to have the same strategy. I had the delight last year. I coached my daughter Maddie's itty-bitty soccer team. I thought I'd be experienced, okay, after my experience with coaching my little sister's soccer team. Let's just say that probably was a fluke, the success of that team. Because we started out, they played 7-on-7. We played at the Y, and I kind of knew the beehive thing and how it went, and we'd all stand in a circle. So I took the strategy of I want to teach them the strategy of the game when I didn't realize that my primary role should be a motivator. Because the first game, we had 9 people. The second game, we had 7 people. The third game, we had 6 people. The fourth game, we had 9 people. But at one point in time, only 2 of them were playing. I got to say, that was really discouraging as a coach to look out on the field and to look at 7 other kids score goal after goal while one kid's talking to his mom, my daughter's drinking a Capri Sun, someone else is playing with Play-Doh, and I'm like, where did you get Play-Doh? Like, I don't even understand. And it was awful because we were all over the place, and it was a mess. And I feel like that's a lot of times what we do in terms of our strategy as churches. It's just kind of like everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And we look at that and we go, hey, we've got 40 hours parents. You've got 3,000 hours. Let's get on the same page. And so we actually seek to communicate with parents what's going on. I want to show you a real easy way that you can do that. We have text updates. If you want to, take a picture of that screen. If you've got a kid who's 0 through grade 5 or a student who's in grade 6 through grade 12, you can get that, and we'll just send you up to date what's going on, what they're teaching, what we're learning along the way, and all those things so that you can be up to date on exactly what's happening in your kids' lives. We view it like this, that to be on the same strategy, to have the same strategy and to be on the same page is far more important than anything either of us could do on our own. It's far better than anything either of us could do on our own. So we seek to have significant adults to get them on the same page with what parents are doing. And then the third thing we seek to do is this, is the environments that we have as a church. And this is how I view it. When you have been in the church for a while, and some of you, you're not there yet, you're kind of wondering what's happening here, but when you have been in the church for a while, you learn something very important. The church is the people. The church is the relationships that you have. That is what is absolutely most significant. But as you're coming in, and as this is new to you, and as you're younger, the church is a series of environments. Like, that's what you're experiencing here on Sunday morning. It's an experience. Like, you may see some people, you may talk to some people, you may hang out. We did the meet and greet earlier, and you probably said hi to about 4 people, and then wondered, okay, how long are we going to do this? Are we going to get back to the song? Do I need to keep greeting? Others of you, you act like the mayor, and you're up for election, and you're like wandering around the rows, and high-fiving people, and kissing babies, and things like that. And that's wonderful. But here's the deal. Sunday morning, this is not where the relationships are really strengthened. That happens in other environments. That happens in things like Group Link and in your groups throughout the week. Sunday morning, this is kind of first impression. This is how things come out. I know what matters most is the relationships. I do. I've been a Christian for a long time. I have followed Christ for a long time. I know what is most significant are the relationships. And so this is what I also know, is that the environments are not about me. I would love to tell you that every single thing we do here on Sunday morning, I absolutely love. I do not. Technically, I'm in charge. Now, that's a scary thought, so let's not stick there long, okay? But technically, that's the case. And so I could very, very easily adapt and mold everything to be exactly how I want. But the Bible doesn't tell me to create the church in my image, but to create it in God's image. And God says, I care about those who are lost and who are losable. So we've said it like this: those who are lost and easiest to lose are more important than my preferences. Those who are lost and easiest to lose are more important than my preferences. Here's the deal. If we could just be gut level honest with each other here. You are not going to like every song we do. You're not going to like every video that's made. You're not going to like every message that's given. Now, if you don't like the messages, that's your sin, okay? But you're not. But that's okay. It really is. That's okay. Because it's not about you. And it's not about me. It's not about us. It's not about what we like. It's not about setting things to make us happiest or even to be the easiest for us. If a church is about us, it quits being a church. The second that we become far more focused on what is happening internally, we might as well take the name church off because we become a club and nothing more than that. But instead, God has said this: unlike any other organization in the entire world, the church will exist for those who are not members. Have you ever thought of it like that? Every other organization in the world exists exclusively for the benefits of those who are inside. But the church exists exclusively for the benefit of its non-members. So we say it like this: what we are called to, who we are called to reach, who we are called to keep, is far more significant than my taste or my preferences. And so this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to bend on that. I'll compromise on that as long as we're focused on what God cares about most. And that makes its way into everything we do. Now, this is what that means for you. I've given you our side. This is what it looks like for you on your side. We need you to love our kids and our students and those who are seeking and those who are searching and those who are looking for something more. And I'm not saying you need to sign up and you need to go do that, because for some of you, if I could just be clear, you wouldn't be very good. Like, great, you're a wonderful person, but we don't want you back there. I understand that. Like, there's kind of been this thing that's happened in church for years that, like, every mom is guilted to work in children's ministry. Some moms aren't made for children's ministry. You love your kids, but that's about where the love ends, okay? So, donuts, do something like that. And so I would say it like this: we don't want you back there. But this is what we believe, is that every single one of us can care about those who are lost and most losable. And that's really simple. That's saying hi to people you don't know. It's introducing yourself. You know how easy it is to form a relationship with a kid? I want to show you. We're going to do this as a group, okay? I want you to take your hand and hold it like this. And I want you to say, high five. That's it. That's all it takes. Like, that's it right there. Some of you even did it. I didn't even have to explain the next step. You had it right there. That was great. That's it. That's all it takes. Because here's the deal. The second that we lose our focus on that, we're no longer a different kind of church. We're no longer leading people to be passionate followers of Christ. The second we take our eye off of what God has called us to, we just become a club. And this is what I love about us. Okay, I know I've said the negative side of it because I always want to protect us against that. This is what I love about this, is that's what you care about. Like, that's the people that we are. And I love it every week. We've gotten to the point in time, I hate to say this, it makes me sad. I don't know all of you. Like, first off, you're sitting in the dark, and it is very, very bright up here. Okay, and so, like, I can see those of you in white shirts this morning. And those of you who are kind of glittery, that helps a lot. So if everyone would just wear glitter from here on out, it'd make it so much easier on me. But I don't even get a chance to know everyone anymore. I don't know all your stories, but I know many of your stories. And I know you're the people who care about. You're the people who care about those who are looking for God. You're the people who care about those who are younger and looking. You're the people who care about students and young adults who are at difficult stages in their life where they're making massive decisions and willing to speak into that. I mean, it excites me so much when I look out and I see teachers and I see coaches and I see volunteers and see people all across all these different spectrums. And you know how cool it is as a kid or a student to walk in here and to see someone you knew from school and you knew from this area and you knew from your sports team, to see them all gathered here in one place? Like, that is so exciting. That's such a neat thing that our kids and students get to experience. But guys, here's the deal. There is too much at stake for us to ever take our eye off of that. And it would be such an easy thing. People ask me every week, I'll actually give you a number. We have about 450 to 500 people that come in here every Sunday. It would be such an easy thing at this point in time to sit back and pat ourselves on the back and say, man, we did a great job. Man, we did a great job. But I want to tell you this, there's too much at stake. There's too much at stake for us to lose our focus now. There are kids and students in our schools who need to know God. You have neighbors. You have coworkers. You have friends. You have people who you haven't met yet who you need to introduce yourself to, who are looking for God, who are looking for something in their lives. If I could say it personally like this, I have 3 little girls who I will not allow them to grow up thinking that church is about them. I will not allow Out of all the things parents say, I won't let them do this, I won't let them do that. I will not allow my kids to grow up believing that it's about what they like and what they want, because God has called them to something so much bigger than that. And it's what he's called us all to. And so I invite you to join us in the mission that God has called us to. Let's pray. Father, I ask that as a group, as a community, as a church, that we would never back down from our calling. That even though so many other things in life would make it so much easier to settle into what is easy, what we enjoy most, or what makes us happiest, that is not the path you have laid out for us. You said in the same way that a shepherd goes after the one sheep who is lost, we are to go after all your children who don't know you yet. And so, Father, I ask that we would be focused on that we would love people well, that we would treat them with kindness. Most of all, Lord, that we would be bold in the way we spoke about you and in the things and the people we pursued because of you. Let us never be a church. Let us never be a people who are more focused on what is inside than all those who are still outside. And I pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus.